All right, so it's Roamer Week 2025, the 4th iteration, and
that's right.
Ironically, I'm going to be interviewing Hanger, but this video is going to be uploaded on the HangarOfRoam channel. So Hanger, I appreciate you showing up here for Roamer Week. Being is,
I know, me showing up, unbelievable.
Being that you host the event annually.
He's alive.
There he is. He's out. So we're gonna do like a kind of a hybrid video. Really, the gameplay is just gonna be a background thing. But I figured this would be a good opportunity to kind of look back and discuss these roamer methods and by extension talk about your stream and, you know, like where things kicked off. Because the cool thing about Roamer Week, and a lot of people do participate each year, I try to jump in streams, and I know you do when we have the time to. And it's
taken on a life of its own, really.
It really has, which just kind of, that's all we could ever ask for or really would want to imagine with this kind of thing. And I'm laughing as I just get an encounter right off the bat. So the methods are coming through already. But it's
absolutely,
some of the questions I see is like, where did this stuff come from? And like, especially with this method, like people are just like so impressed with like how smooth this works.
The 4D chess.
Like even to us,
the outrageousness of it.
To us, it's like even more mind blowing knowing like where all this stuff came from, how it started, which I always tell people. There was nothing when it comes to Gen 2 specifically. Pretty much nothing. And then
there were scraps. Scraps was about it.
That's a good way to... There was a little bit of poking around. Slight. Ever so slight things that were taken like from Heart Gold, Soul Silver is what I would say. So like even before that, nobody was really shiny hunting in Gen 2 until Virtual Console because people were so like... worried about the save batteries. That was like a big thing that people didn't understand. Yep. It wasn't like very widespread of being able to get these batteries and stuff like that.
And also just the ability as well. You know, it was huge. That was why it was always a topic. The Gen 3 Virtual Console. When's it coming? Yeah. When's it coming? And we're still waiting.
Yeah, I know, right?
5 years down the line, we're still waiting.
Maybe Switch 2. To think we can say that from where your stream started in 2020, like maybe Switch 2, it's a reality maybe. Or something. So
one day.
So I figure we can talk about the beginning, but like before we jump into that, I know like one thing that people think maybe they don't really ask, but I figure this was a good time for me to get some questions out too. I think I have an idea of what the top 3, if you could even rank them, your top 3 shiny roamers that you found in your quest. I think I know what 1 and 2 are. Like, I don't want to speak for you, but my guess is going to be that Crystal Raikou shiny is going to be number 1.
Everyone knows that one. Yep.
I figured. So, number 2, I think I know too. I think 3 is where it's going to get very interesting, but I think number 2 is probably Articuno. That would be my guess, but...
That one is a solid contender, yeah.
Okay.
Just because of, again, how outrageous that was in the circumstances of actually just finding 2 in one day. I mean, within like a 1 hour period or whatever it was as well. It was just insane.
Finding any...
Because you don't expect that. If you're single hunting roamers... There's not a commonplace experience. That's not something that you would expect to happen.
It was something like that would get brought up like a what if, but like never like actually a reality in the back of anybody's mind, I feel like.
Exactly, yeah. It was like, well, you know, it could happen. What if? It was the same as the what if you found a shiny on the playthrough when you're setting up? And we ticked that one off as well, didn't we?
Or what if you phase on one of these roamers? Oh, what do you know? That got ticked off too.
Yeah, what do you know? We've ticked it all off, apparently. All of these what ifs that people were saying and bringing up, it just proves.
Sure enough, yeah. You put the time in, and what do you know? These things just can happen.
It might be a long shot, but these things can happen, yeah.
So,
it's the wonders of RNG.
Yeah, that was a big kind of point that a lot of us in your stream made, too. It was kind of like, we're just here for the journey. Where's RNG going to take us kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think you're probably right about 1 and 2. I would probably stick the Suicune from Gen 2 in at number 3, to be honest.
Because I was going to say, when I was kind of thinking about it, and there was a lot of contenders, like, you have Entei in Fire Red Leaf Green. That was on the Surf, which made that kind of interesting.
The first Lati is a solid contender as well.
For you, because I know you really like the Lati hunts and Mauville.
Yeah, and it was also just the sort of context of people having come to the stream for like 4 months at that stage.
Maybe even 6. Maybe even 6 months at that stage.
It was like summer, wasn't it? Was it like May or June or something when I was there? So I think it was less than 6 months. I think it was 4 months or something. But
I think
anyway, that's a moot point.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you started them like right in June, coincidentally.
But yeah, it was always a sort of point that was being made. Just wait until you get to the Latis.
I know.
What are you going to do then? You're doing Mahogany here, and that's okay, but what are you going to do when you get to the Latis? Nobody knows how to do those, and you know, there was all kinds of rumours flying around, weren't there? There were rumours flying around that you got to play through the whole game each time.
Things that we can laugh at now, because it's so funny to look back on, with not only how it ended out for you, but how fast, more importantly, how fast that method ended up being comparably to Gen 2 at the time.
Yeah, the myths were basically shattered.
Oh, yeah.
In no uncertain terms.
Within like 5 days, if that.
Yeah, it was like, we're in Mauville, now we're not.
So that's why I figured the third shiny roamer that you found, like a top 3, I figured the third would be interesting because you had perspective like that. Where to you were hearing it like probably every single week. Oh, just wait until you get to Gen 3 and the Hoenn and the Latis. And
another of my favourites is the Mesprit I found in the hotel.
Yeah, that
I found a Mesprit in the hotel that time, and not many people really know about this.
And I was gonna say, and I remember just joking, like, hey, why don't you just like do a live stream of the catch? Like 10 people showed up. I
was actually on Twitch at the time because I just finished a day at work, you know, working on the rivers, because that's what I used to do in those days. And yeah, in the evenings at the hotel, I would like to just hunt a few roamers and see what happened. And I was actually watching LJ, and then I went over to Ozzy's, and it was Ozzy's, during Ozzy's, like right as he was finishing his stream, that I found it. So yeah, that was a pretty good memory. Yeah, I was talking with those guys about it on that night.
I'll bring that Mesprit up again later as we kind of talk about the evolution of methods, because that Mesprit actually is a very important little piece in the puzzle of everything. Weirdly enough, as odd as that sounds, but... So, you're thinking then that the Hoenn Lati, probably Latios I think was first, would actually be number 3. Because, well, like you're saying, maybe it's that Mesprit. And then another one I figured I would just throw out is, I know that Zapdos in Gen 4 was a big one because you found that like right at the end of a 24-hour stream or something.
I think even longer.
36,
I think it was a 36-hour. So I was basically dead on my feet. Pretty much, you know, seeing shapes. And that one was hard to see as well, so it wasn't the kind of thing that was immediately obvious, but yeah, I think I did immediately see it. But it was some experience. I just remember the catch on that being awful as well.
That's right, yeah.
There were like big arguments in the chat. I can't remember what was going on. Maybe it was Mew. Maybe Mew was pestering me.
And yet at this point, you had been up 36 hours straight, so it's like hard to concentrate.
Yeah, and it was just descending into chaos.
Yeah, that's funny.
I remember that much. Yeah, I think that's why it probably wasn't my favorite, because it was just too much for me at that point. Vincent also made a stop by, I remember that.
That was a big part of the stream early, too. But, okay. So I figured just kind of get your thoughts. I think anybody listening would know that Crystal Raikou would probably be your #1 shiny roamer, deservingly so. And then Articuno is probably #2, and then, like you said, a couple of contenders for 3.
I think the Crystal Raikou is clear. Especially because we always used to joke about us being the only stream on Twitch where you're not going to see a shiny.
Yeah, that's right.
Because the actual chance of you seeing a shiny as someone watching the stream is very remote. You know, if you're seeing 12 per hour, you got to be there for some number of hours to actually witness something, in theory.
Yeah, and that Core would have something to say about that. And then even me, I was there half the streams and I missed the first 2.
Core really would, yeah. Poor guy. He was there almost all day, every day, and managed to miss a whole bunch, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. For the longest time in a row.
He would leave, then I would find something.
Yeah, you're right. So, with that said, I guess we'll kind of just go back to the beginning. So I'll kind of briefly just generalize you. You know, you're from the UK, you grew up liking sports. Obviously, metal, rock music was a big part of the stream. That was a big part of your life. So, tell us about who Hanger, the quote-unquote shiny hunter, was before you showed up on Twitch, if such a person existed. I know you did a few, like, hunts, but what were you doing, like, in the Pokemon scene, like, before you...
Such a person did exist. Yeah. It was mainly pretty low-key. You know, I was in smaller Twitch circles, so there were streams where I was, like, a moderator. People like Renegade Ninja, PokeJax, who used to be called Jax2010N. I used to mod for him as well. Which I know I've taken you to Jack's stream a few times with raids and all that. There was Ty. I'm not sure what Ty's channel name is currently. Underground Ant, the guy who found the
that was at Let's Go.
Zapdos.
Yeah, we were talking about those.
Yeah, we were talking about that because
we're gonna talk about those later too.
I still maintain. We are okay. I still maintain that is the greatest live shiny hunt that I have ever seen anyone do. It's clear. It's not even close. Like for me, it's that.
That's interesting.
It's just the atmosphere, the commitment. This dude kept his Switch on for months and months and months, didn't turn it off, showed up every day wearing the same goofy-ass Zapdos hat, and it was just phenomenal. The energy, the enthusiasm, not a single complaint. Not, oh, when's this gonna show up? You know, he was just there for it. He was strapped in. He set his mountain out, and he scaled it. That was it for me. I had a great belief in what he was doing.
We call it like the Roam mentality, and that was it, 100%. It's just setting out a goal and seeing it through. Not complaining.
100%.
Enjoying the ride along the way. That's what we...
But yeah, I did a lot of my own shiny hunting in those days. Probably similar to how Gene goes about it right now, because Gene, as he alluded to in his other video, is quite casual with it. You know, he does bits here and there. He'll do it on all sorts of games. He'll do it on new games, old games. So I think this was around the time Sword and Shield had just come out. And since I was in those streams and around those streams modding, you know, I would just maybe breed things and catch things and help other people out as well.
So
that was pretty much the gist of it.
Doing all sorts of games then.
Yeah, so it wasn't just the shiny hunting either, you know, I would just help people complete their Pokedex. Which I'm sure Midkoi or someone like that would be able to tell you about those days as well. Because he was there during that. That's how he knows me.
So
and that's why he always came to the stream.
You were out and about on Twitch modding, and then
just in those smaller circles. So it wasn't really attached to any sort of greater shiny hunting network, I wouldn't say. It was just those few small streamers. Noonbeam was another one that I've forgotten to mention. She was also a part of that group. And I apologise if I've left anyone out. I don't think I have.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's been 5 years ago at this point.
Yeah, it was.
You're in your 30s now, so you know your memory. It ain't what it ain't what the young rooms used to be. I can say that now.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
I might start doing a Joe Biden impression.
Oh yeah. You'd be on like Gene's stream or something right now. Like, I thought we were talking about roamer methods. So that paints the picture. What I was doing
before I started the stream. So actually, in the direct run up to the stream, surprise, surprise, I've been playing a lot of Gen 2 again.
That's what I was trying to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, what kind of happened? I don't even know this myself. Like, what happened? I guess like New Year's 2020. I guess you're replaying Gen 2 and you're like, I want to shiny hunt these roamers. Nobody's done it. I'm gonna do Raikou. Is it something like that?
So even before that, I think around probably November or maybe even October, I just started playing Gen 2 again because I was like, you know what? I want to shiny hunt a bit more in Gen 2. I want to do something a bit more focused in Gen 2 because I'd done shiny hunts in Gen 2, but it'd only been sort of specific things. You know, maybe messing about with the eggs. Things like that.
I know you mentioned Lugia
but I kind of wanted
once.
to do... Yeah, exactly.
So like
I wanted to do something
and...
a bit more coordinated, so I went for all the legendaries. Which, ironically, to this day, I still haven't finished because I still haven't found the Ho-Oh. The Ho-Oh is still there, and I still do it from time to time.
That's funny.
It's the kind of thing that, you know, I would do on work breaks and stuff like that. So I still pick it up every so often, but I've still not found it.
That's actually really funny.
But anyway, yeah, that was how it started. I'm struggling to remember the order I did it all in now. But yeah, the Lugia you're talking about.
That's got a story attached to it.
What an event that was. Yeah, that was during a car crash. Christ. We'd had a car crash, actually. I was in someone's car, in the back of it, absolutely hammered, because I'd just been to a metal show. I can't remember who I saw, but it was good anyway. I remember the mic failing. The mic failed, and the dude was so fucking loud with his vocals that he didn't need the mic anyway, so he just threw the mic.
That's raw.
You know. Yeah, it was. It was a really good show.
That's what
I had the time of my life there.
You go to see that stuff.
It was on a boat as well.
I was gonna say, you go to see that stuff, and it's like, you don't know you're going to see something like that specifically, but that's what you want to happen, like, unironically.
There I was, absolutely buzzed, like, kind of hammered in the back of the car. I was eating sausage rolls. My friend and her boyfriend were arguing in the front of the car because he had to come and pick us up because we were stranded. Poor guy. They did break up eventually, but anyway, he was a good guy and he didn't have to come and pick us up. But yeah, I was there filling my face with the sausage rolls because he had a load of sausage rolls in the boot, and he was just like, "Help yourselves." So
that's funny.
Yeah. And the Lugia just happened to show up after they'd had this huge row and he'd clipped the curb. So we were stuck in the pitch black on the side of the road. They were all losing their minds, all really unhappy about this, understandably, because it was quite dangerous, actually. Because we were right on this bend. Too. Yeah, at night time, and there were lorries, like, screaming past us, so... semis, I guess, if you're in America. Trucks. And yeah, it was just kind of... it was sketchy. But yeah, eventually my granddad came and bailed us out.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Good old granddad.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he's a legend on the stream too.
But yeah, anyway, I did find the Lugia during that in the midst of that chaos, I found the Lugia.
Odds
So,
within odds.
I couldn't have been any happier with the crash. Yeah, odds within cross. Odds within odds. Imagine finding a shiny on the side of the road after a car crash.
Wild stuff. And so, thus began your legendary shiny quest, if you will, which then
Yeah, exactly.
evolved to the roamers, which then you decided you were just going to stream. Was there...
It did, because I knew I was going to do those dogs.
Did you feel like for the history of them, that's why you kind of... I know that you wanted to do it to have it recorded. Was it for
I wanted
you to
it
look
recorded
back,
because... Well, I didn't make the decision to record it until a lot later. Because I did my kind of initial scouting of the dogs. I would say scouting. That's probably the best way of describing it. Where just like, I went through a thought process with it. And eventually, you know, released them a few times and just messed about with it. And I always felt that Mahogany was the place to go. I just felt that that was well connected. And from what I could see about how they were moving at the time, it made sense to me. Because you would kind of box them in with the Lake of Rage and they would kind of rotate around Mahogany in a way. You can kind of see what I'm getting at. And that basic concept was what made me believe that was the place to go. So then, after I'd done that initial scouting, I went to YouTube as well, because I was kind of thinking, well, there must be something about this. And there was. There was. Because you had the video from Matakrai M, I believe is the full name.
But he didn't touch on Mahogany. But you're probably going to lead into that.
He did.
But he never showed it.
The first time I watched it, I didn't even know he touched on Mahogany. Because that was in the paste bin, wasn't it?
Yeah,
which I later
basement.
went back and found. Like, a few days later, I went back on there and looked at the paste bin. And I was like, okay, so there is a mention of it. Because when I first watched it, I was like, wait, there's nothing about Mahogany. There's nothing about it. Because that video kind of revolves around, I think, Cherry Grove and
releasing
the Generation Method, which we would later rename to the Release Method.
I think we did a good job of that, too.
What, the renaming?
I never heard Generation Method since about 5 years ago, I feel like.
Yeah.
The more I think about it.
Yeah, I think it was quite... You know, it wasn't to undermine what he had done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it was a matter of linguistics that was quite easy to misinterpret. It wasn't about erasing what Matakrai contributed. It was about making sure that people weren't running into that misunderstanding of believing that generation equals shiny determination, because those two words are kind of, well, those two phrases are kind of
hand in
closely related, I guess.
And boy, did you
can
get
easily
that
mistake one for
misconception.
the other. Yeah, it was very common. This was just something that we had to deal with all of the time.
Until that first Raikou came, it's like,
people
finally.
would come to me and they would say, well, this isn't how these are. And, right, hands up, I will say, I did not know how the Gen 4 ones worked at the time. The Heart Gold, Soul Silver ones, I didn't give a flying fuck how those worked. At the time, I wasn't interested. You know, all I cared about was the Gen 2 dogs. Quite frankly, I had no idea how those worked. So, when people would come to me and say, this isn't how these work, I would say, no, this is how these work. And then eventually, they educated me. They were the ones that told me, well, no, they work this way in Heart Gold and Soul Silver in Gen 4. And that was kind of when I started to learn about that stuff. So I actually didn't know that from the start. Which, yeah, is quite an interesting perspective.
Yeah, and it's good that you brought that up, because some people might not understand, like, you didn't do this to seek out all the shiny roamers through all the games. That came later.
No, not to begin with, but it quickly became that.
Yeah, it did.
Quickly became that.
I think once you got hooked on, I don't want to speak for you, but how fun hunting and tracking down a roamer is. It's just like, I like to describe it as its own mini game, but
I wonder when I first decided it. It was probably like a matter of weeks into the stream, so it was probably still January, honestly, that I kind of expanded it to be the whole lot. I think it happened that fast.
It was early, yep.
We haven't found anything. We were still 2 months away from finding the Crystal Raikou.
With a bunch of doubt from people in between.
Yeah.
A bunch of people.
But even at that stage, after like 2 weeks of the stream, we'd already kind of built up to a sort of steady 20 viewers or so. And I was having the time of my life, quite honestly. Because I never expected to have any kind of viewership, because to me it was just recording the method. In fact, I didn't even have a face cam at the time, did I?
Nah, I was gonna say, and actually, was your first stream a 24-hour stream, or was that like a little bit later?
No, the first ever stream was a 24-hour stream.
That's what I thought, but obviously I wasn't there even for the first one.
Yeah, the first ever stream that I did was a 24-hour stream, which I think the VOD still exists on Twitch. I may be wrong.
Interesting. Okay.
So you can see that without any of the face cam, without any of that stuff going on. And for the most part, it's just me by myself, just doing the shiny hunt, you know. Because there was none of this Empire of Rome stuff, that there was none of the methods. I was just doing Mahogany.
You were just out there just shiny hunting something that's, as far as we all knew, never was there out there.
Exactly, I was just doing what I was kind of doing. And I only made the decision to even go online because of what I saw with the Matakrai video. Because that told me there's not really anything substantial about this. Because with all due respect to that video, it's quite... What's the correct phrasing? It's not so digestible. Because for a start, it's got no voiceover. It's all text-based, which is good for some people. That is good for some people, because we also do text guides, which is just dependent on how you like to learn things, right, and how you absorb information better.
It was a video of its
I thought it was a limited presentation, and it was also just kind of a collation of details. And I guess I felt that Mahogany not being there as well was like a big oversight at the time. Which would later prove to be true, really. Because Mahogany kind of always remained relevant.
Was there anything about the original Mahogany hunt that, like, intimidated you or made you question whether something's not working? Did that thought ever come into your mind, like, that maybe...
Well, I didn't understand the route blocking at the time. I had a vague semblance that it was taking place. I remember we would talk about it, me and you sometimes, directly as well. Because you would be there in those days, and, you know, I would say, like, I'm pretty sure it's blocking me, so I would go in the house and kind of reset. Which, again, would later turn out to be true once we fully mastered it and figured it all out.
Was there ever a thought, so one of the things that you said why you were hunting Crystal Raikou first is because you actually wanted to do them in dex order. But was there ever the thought, because I know people would always bring this up, like, oh, well, why aren't you doing Entei, and they would call it, like we were saying, why don't you do Entei at the generation method instead of doing this first or whatever?
Well... I think, firstly, I just preferred Mahogany. Like, it was just more fun to me, quite honestly. The idea of actually tracking them down. And then secondly, I kind of also felt it had potential to maybe grow into something else. Which actually is what happened in the end.
Yeah.
It may not have happened in the same shape or form if you hadn't come along, but...
Or...
Yeah, once you build a stream like that and you start to get a following and it all starts to mount up, it kind of snowballs. And then you have multiple people working together, which is something that is important because I feel like sometimes people think it's HangarOfRoam and HangarOfRoam's methods, but it's always a massive contribution from everyone involved. Because it's not just Rich either.
No.
You know, there's like a lot of people that were involved with this, a lot of mods that I've had, even viewers. Like, I remember before I even went to Cerulean, I think Cold Snap and Core, both former mods of mine, former still mods, I think, if they show up to the stream or if I go live, takes us all showing up.
Yeah, you're right. At once.
Yeah, I think they're still mods. But anyway, those guys were already in Cerulean when I was doing the latties because they knew that was where I wanted to go. Because they were like, what are you going to do for the fire red leaf green dogs? And all I did was take one look at the map, see Cerulean surrounded by roots, and I was like, yep, I'm going there.
Yep, so
just that easy on that basis. So they did some sort of preliminary scouting, and they went to Cerulean, they went to, I think, Fuchsia, and a few other places. I think they might have even gone to Viridian.
You even mentioned Viridian. Looking back on some of the VODs and stuff, it's funny. Some of the things that slipped out over time that we didn't know about.
I think that was like one of the early contenders for that first sort of process of elimination, just based on gut feeling. But I didn't know the full potential of it, which you would later uncover. And now we've even got Pallet, haven't we? Which is an even higher throughput.
It's never enough, though, for us in those games, I feel like. we always think there's going to be something.
No, but it's just so much downtime spent with Celio, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, yeah.
Like, that really handicaps it. Because in reality, the method is fast.
It just doesn't feel that way.
The method just is. Yeah, like, there's not actually much wasted time in the Pallet Method, or in the Viridian, or even Cerulean isn't that bad.
No, it's not, actually. Especially, like, when you do it, you're not streaming. Because your numbers that we record it, which most people, they won't really care about, but we were the people that had to care about it so people could get a method like what I'm showing, the poison feign out method. We had to care about that stuff to make it, you know, as easy as possible, as simple as possible, while still maintaining like the highest encounters per hour. So something, so like Cerulean was still that, but over all the overhead involved with it and stuff.
Yeah, at the time, I think that's worth kind of stating here. At the time, everything that I was doing in Gen 2 and Gen 3, you know, either Morville or Cerulean, that they were kind of the best that we had. That was what we were working with.
And so some people might say like, well, so it seemed like after you found your shiny roamers is when the new methods would come out. It's like, why didn't you test stuff while you were streaming?
One, because it's confusing. People would have lots of questions. Two, because, frankly, past a point, I started to realise that I was a streamer.
It was a reality.
Yeah, it was a reality for a little bit there. And actually, I just had to prioritise interaction with people. Which was a weird realisation, because that was never what it was meant to be in the early days, but
people were just so invested.
It did gradually change to that. Yeah, people became really invested, and it got really crazy after finding that Raikou in Gen 2. Throughout the whole of the rest of Gen 2, it was crazy. So, after that, it was like, okay, I'm just going to make a more considered effort to actually make the best stream that I can. And Rich was quite happy to put in a lot of the work with the research, and we would discuss things. And I thought it was something that just worked quite well.
Yeah, it was a good balance.
Roam there as like a beacon, and both of us working in separate ways. And then you would just have other people that would contribute as well in their own way. As I say, either through moderation or through discussion with Rich or me.
So many things that were said in chats that, like, a light bulb just went off right after. and another thing, to your point, so, like, I didn't really start doing the Gen... Like, literally, once you found Shiny Suicune, you're done with Gen 2. You're in the Gen 3. That's, like, literally right when I started. Like, okay, let me mess with Gen 2. Because you were learning stuff in these Gen 3 games where it's like, oh, okay, how can we apply that back to Gold, Silver, and Crystal, basically? So it kind of worked out the way it did, I think, because of that. So you were getting ideas in your game, feeding it to me, and actually vice versa, too. It's like, hey, I can do this in Gen 2. Why don't you check something with route blocking out in Gen 3? So you're like biking in Cerulean.
Sometimes it's funny how it works in that way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like
you're working with a different rule set, but also that different rule set brings you a different perspective, and a lot of the ideas are transferable sometimes. So it might open up a new avenue that you hadn't considered before in the other game, and then you can just take it to someone else that is in the depths of the other game. So I also remember that I would do these long-ass streams. I would do the sort of 12, 14 hours or whatever it was. I think it was still 14 hours at that point. And
Super
then
long.
I would come off the stream and I would boot up the virtual console, and I would start trying to do some of the Gen 2 stuff that Rich was talking to me about.
We just couldn't let it go.
No.
Because it was too interesting.
In fact, I was doing 14 hours of roaming live, but yeah, there was probably another 2 or 3 hours after that where I was doing it kind of recorded and then showing Rich some of it and uploading it to YouTube and all sorts, and it was just, absolute craziness, to be honest. I never want to be that sleep deprived ever again.
Nah, me neither.
But at the time, it was nothing short of an obsession.
Hello, Entei.
Like, it really was.
Yeah, so,
completely different.
It just shows you, like, how, of course, you would complete a Gen 2 Crystal Shiny Entei, because that's just how interested you were in the games, in the hunts themselves. Like, as soon as you knew that we were, like, messing with something new in Gen 2, you're like, oh, I gotta try this. Which was,
100%.
Which was that prototype method.
New.
Yeah. Something new in Gen 2 that's kind of near Mahogany, because what we were doing was that Kyo method.
The Kyo method, which never got published.
No. But was like kind of
remembered.
Kind of a stepping stone into all this stuff, because, you know, a lot of people play these games and they hunt these roamers, and somebody who doesn't hunt initially will be like, well, can't you just save on the route and reset the game and it'll be on that route? I think you can actually do that in Fire Red and Leaf Green, but it's irrelevant at that point in those games. But in this game, you couldn't do that. So eventually we thought of, like, what's the next best thing you can do? There's this cave on Route 42. Does that count as being on the route? And from there, it just spiraled out. Because really, the cave counted as its own little place, but it exited straight onto a route, and it's like, whoa, we just got an encounter. It's not blocking it. This is kind of interesting.
Yeah, because the cave would cause them to shift, wouldn't it? So you could just land them coming out the cave.
And then, like, from that, we were like, okay, well, if we don't get it, let's just fly to Mahogany. And it's like, wait, why is this Lake of Rage spawn never going back to Route 42? What the heck's happening here? Let's boot up 100 emulators and try it at once. Oh, wait a minute, they're all going the other way. What the heck? Yep. And then it's like, well, now we've got something.
And I think that's... give the emulators their due.
And I didn't even have this like in my notes or anything. I completely kind of forgot that one of the ways I was testing, that we were all testing really, like Gene included, popping up multiple emulators to test this route blocking stuff. And it kind of goes to show that we had these tools that we could use that maybe they didn't have 10 years before we were doing it.
Yeah.
So thankfully we were able
precisely
to use, we were able to think about like, hey, let's use some of the stuff that's available to us.
And I think at the time, before you guys started to do it, I don't think I even knew that you could run multiple instances of the emulator like this. I don't think I was aware of that.
It wasn't a big thing
when
either.
you suddenly showed up doing like 16 instances of Pokemon Crystal, yeah, it was a game changer. Really, that was one of the biggest game changers in how these hunts would progress and how things would evolve. Just having access to a tool that powerful.
And it really kind of sped up what became the Route 46 method in these games, which was relying on route blocking.
Yeah.
That's our...
Just being able to isolate situations and focus on it and learn what you need and then take that forward is such a big deal.
And so as soon as we kind of figured that out, we tried to have you do it in Gen 3, but it didn't work as good as we planned. But you just got to try it. You just never know what's going to come up from it.
No, we tried a great many things in Gen 3, didn't we?
And it still feels like we're missing something, but you just never know. You never know what's gonna spark something new. And so, just continuing on with this, because Gen 2 is like our biggest thing, really. In one of your VODs...
It definitely is.
And all your first Roamer Week VODs, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, is on Hangar's channel. It's like an unlisted playlist, I think. So anybody can watch those. Yep. And one of the things that came up was like somebody found a shiny Gen 2 Roamer during Roamer Week the first year. And you're like, why don't me and Rich know about this? Surely they posted this in our Discord. Like,
yeah,
we're on the scene on
invested
those,
at
right?
that point.
You're like, we're on the scene on those.
You're saying there's a Gen 2 Roamer? This is the scene.
We are the scene.
It's the same thing as like... Wait, there's a new thrash metal band in the early 80s? Why aren't they playing shows with Metallica? You know? Where the fuck are they?
Same vibes, yeah.
Get them on the same show. But yeah, it was kind of that vibe. Like, I just wanted to know about it. Yeah, wanted to know where it come from, you know, how they'd found it. Yeah, like, they've been using our methods, I assume. Probably.
And if not, we wanted to know, like, what did they know that we didn't know, kind of thing. Like, we want to find out as much as we can about these, whether somebody one-upped us or whatever. It didn't matter to us. We just enjoyed the mechanics of this game so much. And if somebody knew something, we would obviously they're going to want to talk with us, is kind of how we felt.
Yeah, we'd want to compile that information, because that's really what Roam was becoming. Roam was becoming a resource above all else. It was going to be, well, it is like a knowledge base, isn't it? For those particular hunts, like you just have everything there that you need. Like, there's nowhere else you would go for them. Just hands down. Gen 2 roamers, there's nowhere else you're going.
And it's not like for all the roamers combined that like hundreds of people are shiny hunting these things, but when it came to Gen 2, it was different because people were just interested in finding these things, like for dex completion and stuff, and it was incredibly difficult. Like in Gen 4, anybody could just find a Mesprit, Cresselia.
Absolutely.
The dogs.
It's a lot more self-explanatory, isn't it? Because I keep saying that I'll make the tutorials for these, and I probably will one day. But I do wonder, is it even worth me doing? Because it's so self-explanatory.
I think I have something to say about the Heart Gold, Soul Silver dogs. I think we just like these
I'm sure
three
you do.
roamers and so much.
Yeah, I'm sure you do have something to say about those.
But
because there's the whole drama around whether tracking them is even worth it in those games, which absolutely it is. It's not even a question, I don't think.
Yeah, you know, I don't want to throw labels around or everything, but obviously when you started hunting these, people are like, oh, well, it's HangarOfRoam. And even though your username originally was Hanger18, some people might not even know that, but I meant to touch on that in the very beginning, but anyway, so you switch your name to HangarOfRoam, and, you know, there's like this discussion like, oh, well, wait a minute, I thought Sonikks is the roamer guy, and it was like, you never made this a thing, it was just people bringing this up to you. You're like, well, I've never seen his videos.
Absolutely. Yeah, my earliest interaction with Steve Sonikks was after I found the Gen 2 Raikou. He messaged me on Twitter. Or one of us messaged. I can't even remember how that started, but anyway, that was like a bit of a thing. We just exchanged messages, and I said to him, like, okay, yeah, I'll let you know what we find out about Mahogany and what goes on. And that was like my first awareness. Apart from, okay, not my first awareness, because I'd also had people coming into my stream talking about Sonikks. Like, I think Noodles might have been the first one ever to mention it. Like, because by the time Noodles found me, we were already doing all the roamers, weren't we? And Noodles said to me, like, oh, do you know Steve or Sonikks or, you know, whatever he said. And he was like, do you know this person? They're doing the same thing. And it's like, okay, cool. Cool. No, I don't know them. But yeah, obviously Steve was a big YouTuber, wasn't he? And that was where he was, and that was what he was doing.
Yeah, and there's something interesting that happened, especially because you just brought up that one of you guys messaged, but Mahogany was brought up. And so it's like a couple months later, you're done Gen 2. Sonikks finds a Gen 2 shiny Entei and uses Mahogany Town, but doesn't like mention, he just kind of glosses over the fact like, hey, there was somebody else who kind of did shiny roamers there.
At the time, he said something about having never found the stream or, you know, something like that, which was obviously complete nonsense because I've been talking to him about Mahogany. You know.
Nobody else, like you said in the beginning, had ever recorded any footage of Mahogany Town. The only mention was like the paste bin.
And we've been doing Mahogany for months and months straight prior to that. So
hours on hours. Every single day, pretty much.
I thought it was a little bit... It was a little bit unfair. Especially since I thought we were going to have maybe a working relationship going forward. In the sense that I was working with you, I was working with the mods. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'm going to tell you what comes up. And if anything comes up. And then... yeah, that video just released, and it was a bit strange that there was like no more message or anything, you know, for that to just be left as it was.
It's like,
and yeah, it did kind of rub me the wrong way, but it wasn't just me; it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way that were in the stream, quite frankly.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think it was even you commenting on that video. Those comments are deleted or blocked or whatever, but I don't know, there must have been a dozen of us.
I think I just said something like, this looks familiar.
I think that was it, yeah.
I think that's all I said. But yeah, after that, there was a bit of a shitstorm.
And then things kind of...
word. That was, yeah.
I was going to say, then things kind of got neutral.
Yeah, then things kind of got neutral, didn't they?
Yeah, there was a discussion, and then whatever. It's kind of like a separate thing, but...
So, wait, what was the question that you asked initially before we got into this discussion. Because we've kind of gone around a lot of subjects here.
We did, yeah.
Like, I feel like we need to make sure that we're coming back around to the actual central topic.
Indeed, yeah. I think what I was getting at was kind of the evolution of how these methods kind of unexpectedly took twists and turns and becoming ultimately what they did. And what we were getting at is Gen 2 mechanically was always a lot more difficult because of, and Gen 3, because of route blocking. And like we were saying, Gen 4, our goal in Roam, after you started establishing these methods, like you're saying, you want us to be like a central place for people to be able to get help and find these methods, and that's what we were trying to do.
Yeah, that was what it was becoming.
For other people,
because we were all collaborating, we were all working hard on it, and we had so much momentum. That was how it felt. It was like a force at the time. Like, Jesus, there was someone new coming in every day. You know, everyone contributed. People made my overlay, people made my emotes. I didn't pay them. People just did this because this was what they wanted to do. And there were so many people meeting the commitment that I was showing with their own commitment, and the whole thing was compounding.
Just to be a part of something special like that. Yeah, and when it comes specifically to Pokemon, shiny hunting.
Yeah,
Gen
they
2.
could feel that what was going on in Rome was different. It was something that Pokemon shiny hunting hadn't seen, and frankly, it won't see again. And okay, it might sound like I'm blowing smoke out my ass. Like, is that egotistical? To some people, it would be, but
I
don't know, man. I had the stream. It was my stream, and I genuinely think it stands alone as something unique. I don't think it will happen again because it's, quite frankly, a dead category. Which, again, people might not like me saying, but Pokemon shiny hunting is absolutely dead. It's complete graveyard in terms of innovation and fresh personality, anything like that going on.
I was going to say it very much was a timing thing. 5 years ago, like the virtual console games like that you were playing on, these Gen 2 games were still kind of new, quote unquote new for that system. You said Sword and Shield just released, like that's the time period, and so much has been, I don't know if discovered's the right word, but there are many people who specialize in so many different things when it comes to Pokemon, and even you can even bring it to like the full odds retro games, if you will. Like Rex did the thing with the Safari Zone. Like this amazing work that people have put into these games.
Yep.
And it's...
Yep, I think that's one of the best things to come out of it since we've been sort of on the scene and around the joint.
It was, yeah, there was kind of like this domino effect around what we were doing too. With other games where it's like, people are just finding all this cool stuff, like Ace and...
Well, I don't think Rex had any connection to us in that sense.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, like, it just seemed to be like that time period where, like, different people and groups were, like, just attacking, like, certain parts of these games.
You're saying. Yeah. So you just felt there was a bit of a wave of it coming through.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing that, like, came directly from your stream or I don't even know if Twitch. I don't know. It just happened to be like this 2020s thing with Pokemon is, I guess, what I'm trying to express.
Yeah,
is
I think
the way
there was
I felt.
A bit of a wave in that sense. Because, yeah, actually, the Rex research was pretty huge. Like,
that's a big
Professor
thing,
Rex and Tops, like, what they did with the Safari Zone, I think that is, like, some of the most valuable information out there.
And I know they can relate to us because, like, when I see some Safari Zone Pokemon caught videos and stuff, I see them like, hey, did you use the bait strat? And it's like, I know how those guys can... I know.
Yeah, and it's
with
all like that work they put in, isn't it? They're like jumping out their skin to know about it. Like they want to know if the bait strat has been used as it worked. It's just a satisfaction thing as well, to be honest. because they put all that work in, found all that stuff out, and then to see the bait strat come through.
To see all these people use it and be helped with it and maybe not even know like where it came from, that's when you know like you've done something so good in these games. And I think we started to feel that way with these Gen 2 roamers specifically.
Oh, 100%. 100%, because it's gone really far. It obviously starts out the YouTube channel, and that is the distilled version of it. That is the best explanation of it all. But people are going to see it. They're going to see people doing the methods. They're going to absorb it. They're going to do their own rendition of it. So yeah, it does kind of propagate out.
And so what we discovered was the route blocking stuff, and so we made that video, which I think might be the most popular video now. I think it may have surpassed the original Mahogany video in terms of views. It's one of the most watched videos on your channel. The Gen 2 original methods video.
Yep, the methods video is very popular.
So some people might be thinking like, okay, so you guys put in this work back then in I think it was like fall of 2020, this Route 46 method. Wasn't that the end all be all? How come you guys released this video and then more stuff happened kind of thing? And it's like, what we learned.
We don't stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we don't stop.
We never stop digging. God. And it's just,
yeah,
and I guess what I wanted to get at,
constant topic.
Just by happenstance, I was looking up code for Gen 2, and I realized that the randomizations that we thought...
We used to do that a lot, didn't we?
I think we still do.
After the streams, and we'd be digging through paste bins, like trying to make sense of it. GitHub, all sorts. And
Pokemon Pret Discord came in clutch.
Yep.
Coincidentally,
like trying to understand things, and neither of us had any idea what we were looking at half the time. But eventually, we managed to actually glean the information that we needed from a lot of it.
The funny thing is, somehow I found on a speedrunning Discord, not even a traditional speedrun, it was like these guys who would randomize the ROM file and switch up the key items. So you had to like speed run through the game to find where certain key items were. Anyway, to make a long story short, they had the code laid out, something with the roamers, and I realized that the roamers actually randomize. It's like 1 out of n times how many connections are on the route or whatever. Because we used to think it was 1 out of 32 chance. And that was only because we coincidentally did all our testing in Route 42, which had 4 routes connected. So it was 1 out of 8 times 4. So it actually was 1 out of 32. But we always wondered why, like, okay, so we got this route block, why did it randomize this many times in a row or whatever? And really, because it was a 1 out of 8 chance. Or whatever, 7 out of 8 chance that you got it, so 1 out of 8 chance it randomized. And that got me... I
think I had some nonsense on the original Mahogany Method video talking about the 1 in 32 chance, right?
I think so, yeah.
If I remember right, yeah.
Yep, because of one of the paste bins you would have used had that too, now that I'm thinking about it. They probably did the same thing.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
So that got me thinking, like, okay, well, maybe Route 46, it's not as effective as we originally thought, because now I know new information based on the actual game code, where it's not going to be that big of a difference to most people. Like we said, with us, it's like we want to find out.
That much of a difference.
So that
You're
got
wearing
me
the
digging
shirt,
around.
Rich.
I know, yeah. Roamer Week 2020.
Not that much of a difference. Yeah, there's a fucking volcano there.
An explosion of Gen 2 roamers would happen.
Yeah.
But without going into the details about what I did, really, after that, I messed around in Dark Cave, and then I ended up making my way to Violet City. And that's where I was hitting like 30 an hour, just targeting one roamer. And then nothing really happened with it. It's like, we're not going to make a video again to show people that you could get like 3 more encounters per hour or something. To most people, that's not a big deal. But a couple months later in the spring, what you referred to earlier is that shiny Mesprit you got off screen got you thinking, for whatever reason, for the love of roamers is what we're going to say. You're like, what would happen if I decided to go after all 5 roamers in Platinum? How would I track these down and not run into this Mesprit? Is there a way to do that?
Am I still here or am I losing connection?
You're here. On my end.
I am? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I just can't see it. Okay, that's fine. As long as I'm still there.
I see. You probably can't see me, right?
Yeah. But it's fine. Okay. Anyway, what was the question? Let's continue.
Yeah, so, should be able to get that back here.
Yep. It looked good.
So, you're, after you get this shiny Mesprit that you talked about earlier in Platinum, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, what if I actually hunt all 5 roamers in this game in the save file? How do I go about doing that? How do I make sure...
This is why things happen.
You're like, how do I make sure I don't run into this Mesprit? Is there any way I can avoid that to be able to hunt down the other 4 of what it would be?
That was quite a big ambition. I really want to find all the Platinum roamers on the same save file, and it does just lead to these questions that you otherwise wouldn't ask, or these problems that you otherwise wouldn't be faced with, right?
And so you're like, well, what if I just poison Feint out? Well, I encountered a roamer, say, I don't know what the routes are in Snow, like Route 206, and you're like, okay, well that was Mesprit again, but wait a minute, there's a roamer over there, that route where I can Feint out, and if I go through the gatehouse, it's not going to change their locations in this game. That way I can double up on a roamer. In the same thing, can I just poison Feint out? And I think we found out you can't even do that in those games. Like, send you like to... Or no, the poison ends or something like that, with 1 HP left.
Yeah, I think so.
It's something weird.
I'm struggling to recall now. I think that happens, yeah. I think
with poison specifically. Like, you can Feint out with KOs and stuff, but poison Feint out, it'll be like, oh, it survived the poisoning. But all it took was that.
If you're just in the overworld, you just can't.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
I believe.
But all it took was that question.
It leads to.
That little question was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, what if we poison Feint out?
What if we do this in another generation? What's gonna happen? Dum dum doo 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 doo. But the funny thing is, you were about to do the Latties in Heart Gold Soul Silver. So I was like, all right, let me mess.
Still about to do them.
That's true.
It shows how nothing has happened like the past 2 years or whatever.
Yeah, 2.5 years. Funny. And
just different priorities.
So I was like, all right, let me help Hanger out real quick and do some testing with this Feint out stuff and Heart Gold Soul Silver with the Laddies first, because I know once I get in Gen 2, it's just gonna explode. So let me just get this out of the way for a week. And, well, the rest is kind of history. I was already in Violet City, like I was saying earlier. And I was like, oh, well, now I can just self-destruct KO and poison Feint out and all this stuff to go to Route 32 if I miss it, when it's got like 2 chances to hit 36 or whatever. But then that kind of, like, that was just the easy thing to do. Like, let me just poison Feint out in the place I've been working with these methods, and then it's like, well, what else can we do? Where else can we take this? What are the possibilities?
What else can we do?
And so it's like, well, if only the roamers just had like a set location each time. Oh, wait a minute, they do when you release them in these games. They're always on the same route after you release them, so
Yep. That was where we came back to this, wasn't it?
That's where it all led back.
Some of the Metakurai stuff kind of became relevant again.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
It all circled back.
It is funny how it kind of circles back to that. And then, you know, by the same measure, it also circled back to Mahogany, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Really did. When that.
So, yeah.
I don't see many people doing that. I do see a handful of people doing what I'm doing on the screen right now, the Route 38. Because you can target anyone.
This one is one size fits all.
Yeah, you don't have to restart your game. You can target any specific one. You could do all three. You could do just two in Crystal. There's so many options with it, but that Mahogany Poison feint out on the release hits like 50 an hour if you don't care which one you're getting.
Yeah, so it's like only really that specific use case where people are using it, isn't it? And I think even then, most people don't know about it because it doesn't really get the exposure that this gets, because every time they see someone doing these dogs, it's this now.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm assuming.
Even I'm doing it.
I'm assuming it's this. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just the one size fits all and it's so easy to do.
So easy to set up. I mean, all you got to do is get to that town, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas, like, Mahogany, you would have to get the Rage Candy Bar guy out of the way, and this, you don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, there's all these little extra details that just contribute. You're not wrong.
But I love the fact that all of this kind of spiraled out just because you were questioning what would happen if I tried to get 5 roamers at once in Platinum, and then here it is.
Here it is, yep.
Now, obviously, this isn't the best rendition of it, just because we've been talking, but I'm sure I've been getting more encounters than, like, most of your stream would have gotten, most of what I was even doing, like, with Route 46 stuff, so... And it's so 100%. Easy to do.
This is quite a good rendition of it, so I think it's just good for people to see extended footage of it, so I'm quite happy that it's here. Like now, we're about to land another, aren't we? So,
and you can just kind of... It's so simplified is the best way for me to describe it.
Yep.
We were able to eliminate the thought process of this stuff, really.
It's painting by colors. Like, you no longer really have to chase it at this point. Like, it just comes to you.
Exactly,
now.
yeah.
That's the difference.
It gets trapped and it doesn't even know it's getting trapped.
Yeah, it's gone down to Route 32. Oh, you just activated my trap card.
Instant transmission.
It's that kind of vibe. Yeah.
But yeah, you can just see how incredibly easy, simple this can be. I mean, I hit like 40 an hour typically when I'm just doing this focus. 45 in Crystal with both of them if you go after both. It's just so much fun, and just the work that was put into it. And there's Entei.
Yeah, it's so far removed from where we began. You know, the 12 an hour doing Crystal Roamers is so far removed. It's not even comparable, really. It's a totally different hunt. This is what I was saying about the mountains the other day. You know, the mountain, i.e. the scale of the hunt.
Would you say
the way the hunt is performed, like how you choose to climb the mountain?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the stuff back in those hunts, things that we didn't even... I will say, like, probably didn't even matter in the grand scheme of things, like changing the Pokédex to A through Z mode, using Pokemon March. When you were doing it, it was kind of trivial, really.
Yeah, those things matter more when you're encountering more. So, ironically, they're more important than ever now that we have the poison methods. Like, it just amplifies the effect of that. Because proportionally, we're now spending so much time in the grass that not using March is so detrimental. It's just not even worth thinking about, is it?
No.
And yeah, it drives us both crazy. If we see someone doing it and accidentally using the lullaby channel. Like, you really couldn't be screwing yourself any harder. It's an honest mistake, but it really couldn't handicap you much worse.
Or just not
purely
using
because
it.
of how effective the method is.
Yeah, I don't think I've used another extra max repel this whole time that we've been talking.
No, exactly.
Now, I guess it's safe to say that the Gen 2 roaming mechanics are probably your favorite. If you were like, you're stuck on an island question, you could only do one of these roamer hunts in any of the gens. I know you like Mauville a lot, though.
It's easy that it's Gen 2, but yeah, Mauville was also nice. Mauville feels mechanically slick. It's maybe tactile is the right word. in the same way that you might like driving a car and you might like how the gear shifting feels.
I get that.
Maybe not if... there's a lot of people that drive autos, especially in America, so maybe not if you drive an auto, you might not understand a word of what I'm on about. But yeah. Or like motorcycles as well, banging up through the gears. It's just tactile. I love controlling things like that, machines, and... I guess it's a bit of a tangent to go on, but I think that is the best way. That is the best analogy for me to use in terms of why I like Mauville. Because the responsiveness of Gen 3, those games. Well, those games, not Gen 3 as a whole, because obviously Fire Red, Leaf Green aren't quite as responsive. But Ruby and Sapphire, they're very slick. The 60 FPS and all that stuff.
Hold on 1 second for me. Alright, sorry about that. I think that was just a Discord thing on my end. So we're back live right now. And I don't even know if I have an encounter here. But I think we summarized Gen 2 pretty well. Obviously, there's so much to say about it. Like, we could literally just spend like a whole day talking about like one specific area or things that we've discovered in Gen 2, like that you can sweet scent a roamer. That was something that we never knew originally. Obviously, people would ask if you could surf encounter one. We all knew that wasn't possible, but... So I think we did pretty well touching on Gen 2. Obviously, anybody listening, we're happy to answer any questions or discuss about it more.
I think we'd round up the story of it, isn't it? And a lot of things that people probably never knew about where it came from or why, and how this all began. Which is important to the story, because like I say, it snowballs, and... when it snowballs and when people start working together, that's when things like this actually come to fruition.
And with that said, I think maybe we touched on it briefly, like with Gen 3. And so when you were doing Crystal Raikou, like we were saying, people would come in and be like, first of all, they would say, can you even find it shiny this way? It's not how it's done in Heart Gold, Soul Silver. So conversely, in Gen 3, you had something similar, which was, why dex check? Why not use the gatehouses? That's what everybody else has been doing.
Because this is Rome. No, like hell was I gonna do the gatehouse. I wasn't gonna do the gatehouse. Put bluntly, like...
Never
I've
thought.
done every roamer in a way that... there was a bit of a theme. We were chasing the dogs. We were chasing the latties. We were observing how they moved around the map, learning, and then applying what we'd learned. So I saw absolutely no reason to just rip up my own formula and turn it into a glorified soft reset, put bluntly.
Was there ever any...
Yeah, there was just no merit in it.
Was there ever any doubts at the very beginning, like... Maybe this isn't getting as much as the gatehouse. Should I just do that?
Like, I say I was never going to do it, but I think what I really mean was I was never going to take that as the first option. Like, I may have ended up in a gatehouse had nothing we tried worked. But it was quite... I always believed that it would work. Despite what people were saying, like, I remember Perugiaco, he was saying at the time, you can't really get it to work, and that he had tried and he had attempted it. And then I also remember him later saying, while we were doing it, I'm surprised you've got this to work this well.
I think that was a lot of people's reactions too. I know mine included. Like, I never even thought about these hunts.
He was a minority in that he had actually attempted it, and he kind of understood the challenges that were involved, and he knew what he was on about in terms of both the gatehouse and the actual tracking, because he had attempted to track them in Fuchsia, I believe it was. But yeah, it was always that. It was always that. People were always saying, you're not going to make this work with the fire-red leaf green dogs. And my response to that was always, well, we don't know that yet. Because we haven't really tried, have we? We're not there yet. Just wait until we're there, and then we'll have our answer.
And even at the time, were you pretty confident that you were averaging more than what somebody would be doing?
I was.
Gatehousing.
I was.
Because nobody was single hunting the gatehouses, though. That was kind of the thing that I'm aware of,
like
really.
It was hard to get a gauge because no one was single hunting it, so it was always kind of vague, wishy-washy. Yeah, it's like 10 an hour, something of that order, and I'm over here, like, ripping my hair out. Like, how the fuck do you people not know what you're getting?
Yeah.
You know, because that's an important parameter to me. I'm going to get onto the whole mountain discussion again, talking about this.
That wasn't the intention
That's
either.
a part of your mountain. No. But that's the scale of your mountain, right? That contributes to it.
And with those
so I do
hunts...
think... Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know, to be blunt. I did not know. I did not have a clear idea of if we were getting more than the gatehouse would. I felt we probably were. I believed we were. Because I'd done some brief testing myself with a gatehouse. Not enough to have, like, anything statistically conclusive. But from that brief testing, I felt we probably were. And it wasn't really about that for me. It wasn't really about, are we outperforming the gatehouse now? It was also about, what are we going to do in the future? Because by this stage, we'd already started changing Gen 2 quite drastically. So, it was clear to me, the methods weren't going to stay in a single place. You know, they weren't going to be stationary. They were going to evolve. Things were going to happen. Things were going to be found. People were going to try things. Be it Rich, be it Core, be it anyone else, Cold Snap, who was messing around.
Which is very... Like, we just briefly touched on that a little earlier, where you were saying, like, why do the release method with Entei and Gen 2 when what we're doing, like, if you would have just did that, nothing would have came out of it. You would have gotten your shiny, that would have been it.
Yeah.
But with the dex checking, it was like you opened up the door to all these different possibilities. It keeps the
momentum for the entire stream, because the entire stream believed in what we were doing. And if I, as the central figure of the stream, stopped dex checking, then...
The morale goes down.
We would just lose all momentum. Yeah, literally, the morale would go down, and people would stop trying things as much, I think.
I think
the genie was out the bottle to some extent, but, you know, maybe things still would have happened, but it's just a bigger motivator, I think, when the stream and the place that it's all centered and focused around is actually flying the flag, as it were. So I didn't see a need for us to change our methods. We were always going to do it that way.
And so some people might think, like, well, you know, why Cerulean? And why didn't it... What about the other places in the game? And so you mentioned earlier...
Before we move on, I think I just want to, like, raise the point at which... Because earlier I said I was never going to do it with the gatehouse. Unless I couldn't get anything to work. I'm not sure, actually, at what point I would have considered it to have not worked.
That's true.
That's actually quite an interesting discussion to have.
Yeah, because, okay, so say you're at, like, Cerulean, and, I don't know, maybe you just had, like, the worst RNG luck for, like, your first stream.
Exactly.
Say you average, like, 5 encounters per hour. You're like...
Because you could feasibly have hours like that in Cerulean.
Yeah, really. And so, you're thinking to yourself...
I don't think it would have changed anything. I think if it was getting, like, 4 per hour on average, I think I would have persisted with it for a long time.
Interesting.
For a long time. Because I think I would have felt that eventually we would learn something from it.
And that really goes to show also, like, with these roamer methods, you can't just do, like, 10 hours and be like, oh, yeah, I got, I don't know. My highest hour was, like, let's just pick 12 or something for gatehousing, and people will be like, oh, well, I got 12 an hour now doing those. They would just... like, whatever their highest was that 1 hour, they decided to count. It was like, that's what the end-all, be-all for the average. Yeah. And it's like,
or
these
like
hunts
the
are...
peak value.
There's so much variance that goes into these hunts. It's... And
yeah,
then when
like, people are quick to say that, aren't they? Like, I can get 50 per hour on this hunt. And it turns out that's just a sort of peak value that they've seen over the past 15 hours they've been doing.
Rounded up.
And it doesn't really mean anything. Yeah, rounded up. Or, like, it's a rough estimate, and it doesn't really mean anything. Because what you really want is something that's consistent. You want something with a solid mean that is going to consistently give you good results. I know you like using the median, don't you, and the mode? Because you don't like how the mean gives you
halves and stuff.
A decimal, yeah, like a 0.5 of an encounter or whatever. Like, it doesn't really mean anything, but I think it's still... Yeah.
It does mean something.
I still stand by it from that mathematical perspective. But I also take your point, because you can't have half an encounter. So maybe the median is the most relevant thing for someone that is doing 2 hours a night or whatever.
Exactly, yeah. I think it's kind of like... It's interesting to us. When it comes to other people and you're like, what am I going to get per hour if I do this? And it's like, well, this is the mode, and this is what most of my hours got, like 40 an hour. But the average could be like 38.5, or it's usually really close anyway.
Yeah, it's usually fairly close.
But the reason why I like those is because people, when you first do these roamer methods, the more you sit there and think and look at the map, that's downtime. And so your number's going to be low first while you're still trying to pick it up. And if you're like, well, I got like 10 below what the average is, it's like, well, you could have also had a bad hour too. You don't know.
That's true as well, yeah. What you said there about it being sort of vaguely skill-based.
Which is unique.
It certainly is skill-based in some of them. Some of the methods are definitely highly skill-based. Like the Gen 2 ones especially. Not necessarily this one that Rich is showing, but some of the earlier renditions of methods, you would see serious variance between, depending who was playing. Like, Rich was probably capable of getting maybe... What were you capable of on the Route 46 method?
Oh, I was getting 27, 28, 29. Always trying to hit 30, but I could never hit it until like one day the RNG worked out.
Yeah. Yeah, and
30 was like the goal.
I would go on stream, and on the stream I would probably get like 18 or whatever and make it look terrible. But that's just proof that it is skill-based, and it is a lot of variance depending on whether you're focused, what else is going on around you.
And we tried to really cut the skill out of this method. This is why I love this method so much. It's like, we took care of the work for everybody. They can just, all that, like you said what we actually said in the video was, you don't even need to know how this stuff works, or why the poison
this is like an Amazon Fresh at this point. Those physical Amazon stores where you don't even have to check out.
Yeah, you're
it's just ultra convenience. This is just Roamers packaged.
And for anybody watching this, and you're
plastic
like...
Roamers.
for anybody who might be watching this and you're like, well, I want to know like the intricacies of these hunts, I would say fire red leaf green hunts are actually going to be the closest to what the old stuff of this was. Do those hunts and leave us questions, and then we can answer like and point you in the right direction, because we don't really have anything for Viridian or Pallet out there, which is the updated Cerulean Method basically. So,
well, we have sort of long cuts that you've made.
Yeah, and there's people that do them like Black Scarecrow, WP Beartick, Gungner goes by Gung. These are some people I've talked to, and obviously Rusting, he double hunts Viridian and then Pallet. So absolute, it's like
madman.
And then there's just a bunch of other people I don't want to forget that I've talked to through Discord, messages, Reddit, anywhere with these roamers. I usually try to poke in and just say hi or congratulate people and see if they discuss with me. I don't like to try to push methods on anybody, especially in those games, because, you know, at the end of the day, I know that people want to do this for comfort. And again, it just points back to this method here in Gen 2. It's like the best of all the worlds, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't know if I could have been doing Gen 3 Pallet efficiently while having this conversation. Like, I could have, but either the method or you were going to get left out in certain points of it.
Yeah, you choose one or the other. You only have so much broadband.
Exactly, yeah.
So much bandwidth, sorry, that's the word I'm looking for.
And even in Gen 3, we had that little fake house method, which it shows that we just try to do a method that
which Nils used a lot, didn't he?
Indeed, yeah, I think he actually did find
Trainer
it.
Nils.
I think he found it using the fake house, if I remember right.
He used it to great effect. I think he was he double hunting with the fake house?
I think he did one gatehouse and one fake house. And I remember now, I got a video that he sent to me specifically, and it was him like gatehousing. And he must have had like a 45-minute reset or something. He was like, F this, I'm going to Rich.
Blimey. Yeah, I remember that one. I saw that one as well. That was quite funny. He sent that to me.
So it really...
this, I'm going to the Rich method.
It kind of hits home that I think we set out our goal to try to just be a hub, if you will, of where people can come if they got questions for these hunts, really.
Perhaps we will consolidate Pallet one day. Like, we might make a sort of formal video on this channel, because there's probably going to be demand for it, isn't there?
I think so, yeah. I was surprised a bunch of people were asking me about it.
Yeah.
I just think...
because Cerulean is a bit old hat at this point.
Yeah, people will bring it up.
Originally did.
I've had people ask me about it too, like whether to do Cerulean or not, and it's like, oh, maybe not anymore.
It's probably because Cerulean is still flying the flag on this channel, so I guess there's a bit of confusion about that, because this channel is, quote unquote, the ultimate resource for this.
But it's good that we have this discussion. If somebody's really interested in it, they can reach out to us now. It's like, for any of the...
Yeah.
For any game, really. Even BDSP I was messing with Mesprit in those newer games. Years ago, but still.
I haven't even touched those. Not even remotely. But they're on the list, aren't they? For when I eventually come back to streaming.
That's true.
Which will happen eventually. You know, everyone is kind of asking me, when are you going to come back on, or what are you going to do? I nuked my entire hard drive recently. Deleted absolutely everything.
Brutal.
Yeah, what a disaster. But it will happen. I just need to sort out some other things first. Like, over the past year, I guess I've decided that I'm going to be moving. And that's going to control when I come back to streaming. There's no real time scale on when I'm moving, but I will be moving.
And you're going to have the people that were there, I don't know, 2 years ago now? That were there then are going to be back. I guarantee it. I know I'll be there. So definitely
yeah, there's a
excited
lot
for
of
that.
people that just don't fade away, especially because I'm still friends with them now and I still speak with them now. Not everyone, of course. I can't speak with everyone. I'm just not that way inclined. It's that autistic tendency to just hermit. So,
And I was gonna say, I think this discussion, really kind of helps show that you're still around, always gonna love these roamers, and
it does.
It's something to put out here for Roamer Week, and just to show like our appreciation for people participating in your week that you promoted that actually came from a mod in your stream. If people want to know where Roamer Week came from, it was an idea from Yogi about Roamer Day, I think, at the time.
Yeah, I think he made the first poster and it was International Roamer Day, which I may have lost in the purge, regrettably.
That's true.
But I did have it. Maybe it's still on the Discord somewhere. I think it would be, in fact. Yeah. It almost definitely would be. International Roamer Day was his idea, as he called it. And we took that on. We decided, you know what? Yeah, that's a good idea, Yogi. We'll do something with this and we'll decide on the time scale and how long it should be. And then we spoke about it for over a year, didn't we?
A year of build-up, yep.
Yeah, over a year we spoke about it.
So in many ways, Roamer Week felt like it really started in 2020, to me, and a lot of people back then.
Oh, 100% it did, because it generated so much hype and interest as well. So much hype and interest, because I know that was like a constant pissing contest back in the day, wasn't it? Because you'd have some people out here saying, well, there's a lot of weeks popping up now. And I think it was kind of in response to what we were doing with Roamer Week.
Yeah, because it was really like Safari Zone Week, and then I don't really know of any other weeks.
Well,
and then,
Safari Week like already existed, didn't it?
That's what I mean, yeah. Like then it was already, it was like Safari Week, and then I don't remember. Like,
that was ancient history at that point, I think.
Oh yeah, it had already been around.
I don't know the history of it really, but...
Yeah, that had been around for like 7 years. I don't think there was any other weeks per se that I can remember.
There probably were, but
I don't.
I think again it was like a time period where things just kind of all condensed. It became trendy to start a week.
Yeah, that's a good way.
And that was the thing. Yeah, so like there were a lot of weeks popping up, and before Roamer Week had already gone off, there were people coming to me saying, "Oh, I've got fatigue. There's too many weeks," and I'm out here. The fuck are you talking about? We've been talking about this for a year. What do you mean there's too many weeks? There weren't too many weeks last year.
Yeah, it's funny. But
yeah.
I know that
rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I didn't mean to rub people the wrong way with that, but that was just my honest opinion from my perspective on it. We started this week. My stream was absolutely thriving at the time. It was popping off. And I think that was like something that people saw. And they were like, that's a good idea. I should start a week as well.
And it was a great idea, and I can't blame anybody for doing that.
It wasn't my idea.
Exactly.
It was Yogi's idea.
Yeah, and I think it goes.
But yeah,
to say like
I did really love the idea because it really helped to celebrate the differences and the intricacies of it.
And just kind of to segue into that, one of my questions, and I guess we'll try to wrap things up because I know I'm kind of getting close on time. We're probably gonna ramble on at the end, but I guess my last question for you is, what would you define as a roamer? Because, you know, we touched on it way back in the beginning of this an hour ago, where Underground Ant found that Zapdos, and while that was a mountain and roams above our atmosphere in many ways, in different ways, it wasn't a roamer.
Is the greatest live shiny hunt I've ever seen, and Ant will talk to me, and he will tell me it's a roamer or compare it to a roamer, And I'm sorry, but I will never call it a Roma. It doesn't diminish from its greatness.
No, not at all.
It really doesn't, because to me, that's still number one. That's the greatest shiny hunt I've ever seen live. And I feel like I'll probably link it in the description of this video, actually, because all of you deserve to go and watch it. The reaction is 10 out of 10. It's like the best thing I've ever seen.
And actually...
And I was in a lot of his streams.
Yeah.
When he was
still
still tracking it down. Yeah.
And there's...
So yeah, that one is quite personal to me. But yeah, I think something that defines a Roma is the actual mechanics of the movement. I think firstly it has to be a zone-based game, because I don't know if, well, I guess you could probably even call the modern games zone-based, because they still have separate routes and areas, don't they? So you could technically still have one, I suppose.
I think for me it's got to move to different routes infinitely. Oh, I think you might have froze here, sorry. Yeah,
okay.
Sorry about that, it froze up a little, but it should be recording again.
Yep. So where did it lose us?
So you were just saying it's got to move routes, I think it was?
Yeah, I think that's the important thing. I think it is the nature of the player's input and the player shifting zones and the Roma's movement responding to that. The Roma having a corresponding transition when
Based
you cross a route boundary. Because that is really how you kind of define our hunts, isn't it? That's the defining aspect of it. Us manipulating that position through our route shifts. And vice versa.
And I would say, like, the roamer has to move, like, indefinitely. Like, it can't just be stuck on a route at some point or something like that. Which gets tricky, I suppose. Because I think they might do that in X
what
and
do you
Y.
mean by that?
So, like, I think in X and Y, there's, like, the roaming birds, possibly. But they only roam for, like, the first 10 attempts at them, and then they stay stationary in somewhere.
Yeah, I think I heard about this. Because people always ask me about those. They always ask me, are you going to do those? And they said they're, like, roamers temporarily or something. I don't really know, but yeah, as soon as I heard it was like they're roamers temporarily, I kind of lost interest.
So yeah, it's kind of like...
to me, if it's going to roam for 10 encounters or whatever, then it's not really going to be a roamer hunt after that, is it?
No, exactly. Yeah, it'll be a soft reset, which is most people what they do, I think.
So yeah, I just wouldn't count those, quite frankly.
But so I guess
I wouldn't be opposed to playing a modded version at some stage when I run out of things to do invariably.
Well, you never will with Ace and Gen 2. You're gonna roam the whole deck.
No. Exactly, I can roam the whole decks in Gen 2.
It's funny.
Just never run out.
I guess with that said, do you have any like closing remarks as we wrap this up? Like I was saying earlier, we could just talk about this for like a day straight of so many things. Maybe we'll make a part 2 at some point.
I mean, I think it's important to say I appreciate everyone that supported the stream, because I haven't been very active recently, and maybe it feels like I've just abandoned it, and that's not the case. You know, it's just paused. We're always going to be here, and we'll always do things on our own time scale. That mountain isn't going anywhere.
No.
What I talk about, the shiny hunts, when I compare them to a mountain, and you set out your conditions and how you go climb that mountain, you know how tall it is. You know how long it might take. But you're just strapped in for the ride. And you can pause that. We have the luxury of pausing that, because we're not climbing a real mountain, are we?
That's the beauty of it.
No,
although
but
now
people
you're going
want to be there for it.
Now with Gen 4, you're going downhill with the laddies. I mean, we're all
True.
waiting at the finish line. It's just we kind of fell asleep there waiting. No, I'm just kidding.
It's kind of like a lap of honor at this point, isn't it? It's not really the same scale, which the scale is actually important. I think back in those days, people wanted to be a part of the scale. That, you know, they're not going to be interested in someone that's taking a jetpack up the mountain, are they?
No. Unless they made the jetpack themselves, but yeah.
yeah,
Grand Theft Auto.
But if you say you're going to climb up the mountain, you're going to live stream it, people are going to want to be there for it. They're going to want to spectate. They're going to want to see what happens, the twists and the turns. And if you're going to extend that to say, yeah, I'm going to learn how to climb at the same time,
then it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the camaraderie
people
and
really
stuff.
want to know.
Well, yeah, I appreciate your time in doing this, and I know a lot of people will enjoy it. And like you said,
Certainly hope so.
You know, stay tuned. We're always going to be working in the background with this stuff. Like, it just never stops. I mean, speaking of mountains, I mean, we hit a plateau at a certain point on these hunts, like Gen 2. They're already at the moon, you know.
They are.
It's like, now it's just, could we get Gen 3 there or something like that? And it's just, there's already stuff that have been worked on in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and who knows, maybe in a few days people will see that, but we don't want to make any promises, but there might be some more stuff in the works yet for Rumor Week 2025.
There might be. But I think while I'm here, I do just want to say that there are people streaming during Roma Week as well, even in my absence. So in my Discord, we've got WP Beartick, twitch.tv/WP Beartick. We have Rusting Peace 18, also twitch.tv. We have Charles, don't we? Black Scarecrow.
Yep.
The Black Scarecrow. Again, twitch.tv. And yeah, I think there's a few others floating about as well. But anyway, these are the ones that have posted in the Discord. So definitely go and check out their streams if you're looking for places to hang out and discuss this stuff. If you're getting involved in it.
I can vouch for all of them. I try to be there when I can. If not, I watch the VODs. Great stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And as for me, I might be appearing with Charles in a couple of days.
Yeah, 3 days maybe?
3 days. Yeah, 3 days. And possibly on Friday, we might close out Roma Week with something scuffed as hell. We'll see. Because I have deleted absolutely everything. So I'll be building everything from scratch. There'll probably be like no alerts. None of that stuff. But yeah, if people want it, we'll see what we can do.
Alright, well, thanks again. I mean, I know this is on your channel and you were the interviewee, but appreciate your time and popping out in Romer Week. I know I appreciate it, other people do, and it's been fun the past 5 years. Some challenges, but overall, I feel like I can look back and it's been a lot of work that was put through and it helped out a lot of people, most importantly.
It's a good story, yeah. Yeah, a lot of good has come out of this. And I can look at it now and feel quite content. So I'm obviously out here doing other things, as I've said. The priority hasn't been Rome for the past few years now, to be honest. But yeah, I mean,
but when we're in it,
I've met my future wife, and that's quite important.
This is recorded.
So
it's official.
It is recorded. I mean, she knows it anyway.
Yeah.
We're just trying to do what's best for us at the moment, and probably once we've sorted out housing and all that stuff, I'll come back, and maybe occasionally she'll even be in the background or
let's see it. Get involved.
Reluctantly involved.
Alright, I think that's
doing that shiny hunting nerdy stuff again.
Yeah, that's what it is.
She's fine with it. She's not like
we embrace it. We know what it is.
Yeah, she knows exactly what it is. She used to come to my stream, so she knows exactly what it is.
I think that's a good note to end on, and For anybody watching, again, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, just let us know. We're always happy to explain anything, whether it's the methods, the history of the stream, just anything in general. Appreciate it.